This is Logical Logistics, where we cover shipping, supply chain, logistics, and everything in between. Welcome to the show.
Hey Joe, how's it going today?
Good.
You've taken a moment to meet with me virtually.
Yeah, I know. No, thanks for having me.
Whereabouts are you at? Where are you located?
Just right next to O'Hare Airport in Schiller Park, Illinois.
Nice.
Chicago.
Nice. Yeah. I used to play baseball many moons ago, and my old manager was Rick Renneria, who's managing the White Sox now. So
No way. Who did you play for?
I was with San Diego from 05 to 08.
All right. Yeah, my son, he played at Santa Clara University, and he played for the Fargo Moorhead Redhawks last season.
Nice.
Yeah, a couple years in the minors, but we're going to see how that goes. He's supposed to be coaching in San Diego this summer. We'll see.
Very cool. I had an old roommate in minor league ball that played at Santa Clara.
Okay.
A guy named Nick Crosstalosta. This is years ago. He had a tremendous amount of power. He could hit a ball a mile.
Yeah.
And he had a couple seasons where he was unbelievable, and he had a couple seasons where things didn't work well for him. So
I understand. Yeah, I understand. You could write a good book about it.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You could write stories and stories and stories.
Yes.
But anyways, yeah. How are things going with you guys with all the craziness going on?
They're going. We have a medical and pharmaceutical sector that has been fairly strong throughout this.
Imagine.
Yeah. Obviously, retail is totally gone right now. Automotive shut down. We're seeing little signs of it ramping back up, but we'll see what happens. We're getting reports. It's going to gradually take a month to get that back up.
Right.
We did it as far as trade show. We have a customer that was doing bridal material, dresses, and they actually filled in 2 orders, and that was out of New York City. We're seeing signs of life here and there. We're actually seeing signs of life international too.
Right.
Obviously, they're back up and running in China. It's just the logistics of getting back and forth there. But what really kept us alive during this, keeping us alive, is medical and pharmacy.
Tell me a little bit about your operations. How are you guys set up, and what does the business look like on your end?
Well, we started as a traditional freight forwarder. We're in our 51st year.
Gotcha.
And our corporate office is here in Chicago. So the social distancing and everything, as far as that, has never been an issue. We also have a sublease with one of our largest customers working in conjunction with them. So that's the setup there. And then we have agents across the United States. Some are affiliated with us. A lot of other ones we just use platforms such as Baruch, some of the other organizations like the ECA, CDLA, to find good, reputable agents in those cities. We handle a couple cities here out of Chicago on our own. We had agents like in Los Angeles and also in Philadelphia, and that did not work out. So we're running that through here in Chicago. It's turned out to be quite more profitable. Now obviously a lot of that business is put on hold, so to speak.
Right.
But that was our experience in the last 2 years.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but we've survived everything, and it looks like we're going to survive this. We've seen everything. I remember when I went to work on 9/11, and at the time I wasn't in charge. I was just a sales rep, and my boss said, "We're done." No, we're not. We can still truck this stuff. We're warehousing. We transitioned from traditional freight forwarding to actual logistics and 3PL back in the late 90s, and that saved us then. And we've learned to adapt and transition over all these years to survive.
What does that look like? What does that breakdown look like today between freight forwarding and traditional like truckload brokerage operations?
I would say it's about, well, it's not going to be 100%. So I would say it's about 35, even split there. And then the rest of that is just international or 3PL work where we're actually just putting it on integrated carriers, but we're doing the fulfillment. So we're doing a little bit of both, of everything. And then of course, there's local business that we have here in Chicago that's profitable as well. But our main focus has been the medical and pharmaceutical. If there had to be a main focus.
Got it. And what kind of data sources are you using currently? What do you use? What kind of information do you use to drive your decision making?
Well, as far as financial or what we're going to do.
Yeah, I guess like from an operational standpoint, when you're making decisions on how to price things, on how to target, look for sales opportunities, where to focus your sales efforts.
Right. So as far as targeting and the operation end, we have our own system that we developed a long time ago. And if you look at it, it's antiquated. It's on an old platform.
Mm-hmm.
The advantage is it's a workhorse, and it helps us tailor-made to our company, and it can't be hacked.
Nice.
It's older technology, so it's worked for us. And we've been able to integrate that, and we have web-based programs that we tie into it, not the customer end. On the sales and marketing end, we're finding, the traditional sales has been not as effective as in the past, and it hasn't been for a while, honestly. The face-to-face, the cold calling. So we're exploring more. We're getting a lot of bites from the LinkedIn page. That's how you contacted me.
Right.
Putting stuff up on YouTube, doing podcasts. Platforms such as yours on a smaller scale. And it seems that's like the new way to reach out to people, find things. And there's certain organizations that help us too. The most advantageous organization that we joined was WCA, which is the World Cargo Association. And that's an international organization. Now, obviously, there's a big monkey wrench in there as well because the whole world shut down. But before then, it was actually paying a dividend, where some of these other associations, not so much. It's a lot of these other associations. There's associations that work together. There's associations that are a bunch of competitors gathering together and thinking that they're working for the common good, but I'm skeptical. And then there's something like the WCA that actually has proven results in the past, and I'm confident that once all this is resolved, that it'll go back. And, obviously there's a lot of posturing and talks about trade and relations between countries, but I think in the long run, the economics of it are going to be able to overcome this. There might be changes here and there, but I don't foresee a full-scale trade war, or anything with these. I think a lot of it's just rhetoric and posturing, which is doing a lot of damage right now, honestly. I think if you put the politics and the media aside from all this, and just listen to rational minds, be in a better place, just concerning coronavirus.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I know people in the medical. Obviously, I know personally people in the medical professional, and we deal with people in the medical professional. You listen to them, and they have really depth, rational approaches. But also if you listen to a doctor, they're going to be so safe that you want to shut down the economy till we find the vaccines. You have to have a balance, and we're not finding that. I know there's people out there that are rational. They're just not being heard right now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
But back to the forecasting, on an operational standpoint, we use our own database software that we tie into other platforms, whether it be Excel and PowerPoint, to our web-based platform that also was tailor-made for us. And then on the sales and marketing end, we're finding that we do have a small sales force, but we're finding more that the reaching out via other methods such as YouTube, the LinkedIn page, and everything we're getting more hits from the YouTube, more inquiries from YouTube and LinkedIn than we are from our actual website. But we do have a website with a pretty good back end, and it helps out with our customers on the shipping aspect.
What do you know about FreightWaves and Sonar?
Well, I interacted with FreightWaves briefly at the AFA,
Okay.
Freight Forwarders Association, and what I saw is that it was just they're doing interviews, live video interviews, and I see it. It's my perception. It's like a news source for our industry.
Hmm.
I think which years ago I thought would be a valuable, uh, something extremely valuable because it's something really overlooked in business as it is. Even Wall Street Journal, they'll have a small logistics thing online in the bottom left hand corner. You have to scroll all the way down. But things have to be created and things have to get from point A to point B,
Yep.
and people just take that for granted.
Yep.
And they get concerned about all this. A lot of people, I think, they just think things magically appear or magically are created. No, things have to be created, and things have to get from point A to point B. And
Right.
but what I perceive what FreightWaves provides is a valuable tool to give news on one of the two most valuable aspects of the economy.
Yep. Yep. So, we've only been around for like 4 years now, and
Right.
initially started as a means towards launching freight futures. Our owner grew up in the trucking industry, was living in New York as a day trader, and he made up his
That's
mind.
correct.
Yeah, Craig.
Yeah. Right.
He's like, hey, I want to. Why is nobody trading on the trucking industry? It's bigger than oil and gas. It's more volatile. All the ingredients are there. Let's make that happen. So he initially started FreightWaves as something to support trading, knowing that if people are going to be investing and making trades, they want to be informed. So they want to be up to date with current events. They want to be able to do research and get data. However, everything grew to be something a whole lot bigger. Now the blog, what was initially a blog, is the media arm of the company. We're the largest freight-specific media entity in the world. We have 40 journalists all over the world. We have TV crew, news anchors, meteorologists, studio and the office, the whole bit. And then he also started gathering data. That's our Sonar platform, grown and evolved into what is now our Sonar platform. So now we have over 1,200 data partners or data vendors, if you will. Most of those data partners are software companies. We get most of the data in Sonar is coming out of software companies. And any kind of software system that's tracking freight, like a TMS platform, DLT platform, telematics, etc. We purchase all of that data. A lot of it's cleaned before we get it to protect NDAs, so we can't see what a specific shipper or carrier is doing. But we are able to see the length of haul, the origin destination, the trailer type. Was it accepted or was it rejected? If it was contracted freight. So that has grown into Sonar. Now, just on the truckload side of things, we look at about over 200, just short of $250 billion in electronically tendered freight transactions, which is a huge, huge portion of the overall market. We're also tracking all the intermodal movements across the country. So we can look at international containers on the rails, 20 foot, 40 foot, 45 foot. We can look at loaded, empty, and totals coming in and out of various markets. So you can, for example, monitor all the empty international containers coming into the LA market, and that's almost like a metric for what you can expect in terms of imports coming into that market. See a bunch of empty containers flood into a market, you know that there's a lot of stuff headed that way. But we're also looking at all the imports coming into the country as well. So we can see the import volumes coming in, maritime import volumes coming into all of your ports, East Coast and West Coast. And we can look at, the various changes, whether it's week over week, month over month, year over year, and start seeing those fluctuations. And being able to, layer all of that data on top of each other, we can look at, for example, for a while, we saw all the imports coming into LA just nosedive because of coronavirus. And at the same time, all the outbound truck volume went skyrocketing up. What's going on there? All your imports are going down, all your truck volumes are going up. We're able to figure out that all these companies were emptying their warehouses for all that panic buying that was happening initially with COVID. We had data that showed that. We could see exactly how that was happening. Now it's kind of the opposite's happening. We're seeing all these imports start to come back in. There's nothing going out. The demand to spread those goods across the country isn't there yet. So we're seeing all these imports come into the West Coast, and they're all just stockpiling and refilling all the warehouses that got emptied out. But that's the type of data that we have available in Sonar, whether it's truckload, intermodal, maritime. We also have some air cargo information as well. And you can layer all these things on top of each other to understand, see exactly what's taking place at any part of the country in terms of freight. So that information can be leveraged to help you make better decisions, whether it's operations and on your brokerage side, how to maximize your margins, locate which markets have volatility. You can take advantage of that volatility and know exactly how to price accordingly to get good margins, and you can tell your operations people in the brokerage end where they have leverage and where they don't have leverage when it comes to covering loads. You can see that an area is tight. Don't have your operations people banging their head on the wall trying to negotiate rates in a tight market. You can tell them, hey, in Sonar, I can see the conditions are tight here. I just need to take my first option and move on. Whereas you can also locate those markets where they're loosening, and that's where your ops people do have leverage to get margin brokerage because there's more options there to negotiate. They have more leverage to push back on carriers a little bit, and so forth. And then on a sales end, you're able to locate those markets that are seeing imbalance. Where are there trucks that are needed? And you can make more targeted sales calls on your brokerage end. And then I would say as well on the freight forwarding side of things by monitoring which ports are expanding, which ports are contracting, and so forth. Right. So it's a robust data platform that's designed to inform your team so that they can make better decisions and decisions with better probability. That's where you see more ROI, more revenue by you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the big side of FreightWaves. And what you'll see is on the media side of the business, a lot of the stories that we're reporting, a lot of the commentary that we're offering on our TV. We have our own smart TV channel.
Right.
A lot of that you'll see is based in Sonar. You'll see people pointing at charts, referring to outbound tender rejection, volumes, and head haul index, and so forth. All of that is proprietary data that's within Sonar. So that's kind of general commentary that we're providing about the market as a whole. But when you have access to Sonar, you start building out custom pages and charts and maps that are around your specific operation.
Yeah.
That way you can log in, you can click the pages that you have built and see the information that you need to see, and be more informed as you go throughout your day.
Okay. So who has access to?
Yeah, we work with 8 of the top 10 brokerages in the country right now are using Sonar. I think close to 70 of the top 100. That's on the brokerage side of things. We have a large portion of the top 100 carriers as well. We're also working with shippers, carriers, brokerages of all sizes, all the way down to some owner-operators on the carrier side. Then we work with financial institutions. The federal government's using Sonar now. We signed a deal with FEMA last month where they are in Sonar and monitoring what's going on in the logistics industry, and Sonar is their primary source of information for that. Mainly how they were using that initially is they're monitoring inbound tender rejections going into hotspots like Manhattan. So, when they're seeing that those rejections are climbing higher than what the market says they should be, they know that, a lot of carriers are not wanting their drivers to use hotspots and so forth. Then FEMA knows when it's appropriate to use FEMA trucks to make sure that, medical equipment and essential items and groceries and stuff are getting there.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of different people, a lot of banks and hedge funds and institutions have an interest in our information as well. But really, it's anybody that has a hand in freight. There's probably somebody that's using.
Okay.
So, yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on all of that? Does that sound like information that would be useful to you guys? And I can share my screen here just to show you.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
All right, let me know when you see my screen.
I got it.
So, yeah, this is kind of, I'll give you a quick lay of the land. This is what Sonar looks like. Um, we have these global pages. These are pages that we control on our end. And we're updating everybody that has Sonar has these global pages. These my pages, these are all custom pages for me. So I've built these pages or they've been shared with me from another Sonar user. But only my Sonar login has all of these pages like this. We have research as well. So we put out 2 or 3 research papers a month. And we put out a daily email called a daily watch that's just giving an overview of what we're seeing across the country, kind of highlights. But looking at, the page that I have pulled up here is OTVI and OTRI. That's outbound tender volume for the whole entire United States. And this is truckload volume. And then also the tender rejection index. So then we're looking at year over year. So 2020, this is the COVID-19 peak. But here's where volumes were at in 2019 in green, 2018 in orange. So you can see how the volumes really spiked right here in late March,
Right.
then came crashing down. And as of late, they've been starting to pick back up, and we just now crossed back over where we were in 2019.
Okay.
On the tender rejection side of things, what we're seeing is, what we're measuring here is a percentage of all contracted freight that has been rejected. So when, and essentially those rejections, as they happen, that freight starts moving down through a routing guide and ultimately towards the spot market. So we're looking at carrier sentiment, essentially. And what we have found is it's a great metric for understanding tightening and loosening of capacity and upward and downward pressure on rates. Remember back in 2018, rates were considerably higher across the country, truckload side of things. And you can see that where tender rejections were way up here, right? They're way higher. What we saw is we monitor Class 8 new truck orders within here as well. We saw Class 8 new truck orders spike in late 2018. They had all this capacity rush into the market, and that led to tender rejections falling, which then led to rates falling, and that put us into the situation that we've been in even before COVID-19. And you can see that in that tender rejections before this hit, we're below 2019 levels. This little bump is Christmas here. And you can see tender rejections also, went skyrocketing upwards with the big push in volume. And then similarly, right after volume came crashing down, tender rejections came down. And we're still not back. It's been pretty flat the past several weeks. So, this is a great metric for understanding, from the broker's perspective is when do you have leverage? When you see tender rejections spiking up, that's a sign that capacity is tightening quickly and rates are going up very quickly within that market. Same thing when tender rejections come crashing down, that market's loosening quickly and rates are falling. So the great thing about Sonar is all of this data updates every 24 hours. So we can see day-to-day movements with what's happening with capacity in regards to truckload, and we can break it down by van or reefer. But we can monitor all of this in real time. Basically, all this information is updating every 24 hours, and that's the magic of Sonar, if you will. So what that means is, a lot of the other data sources that are out there are usually lagging by a week, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes 10 days. Having access to real-time information means that you can get out ahead of all of these trends.
Okay, so again, refresh me. How are you getting this real time?
Yeah, so keep in mind our data sources are software companies, right?
Yeah.
So those are companies, it's all electronic information. And because it's all electronic, we're able to, that information updates electronically every day. We're getting this information from any kind of software platform, TMS platforms, ELD providers, so forth, anything that's being used to track a freight transaction. So we go to that company and we say, we want to link to all of your data, and we want to be able to access all of your data. We don't need to know who the shipper is. We don't need to know who the carrier is. We just want to know the objective information about every freight transaction happening in your system. We've gone to over 1,200 companies with that same statement. We're taking all that information, all that's being updated every 24 hours on our end. We're aggregating it within this platform to enable us to see all of these movements. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So this map here, what I've pulled up is a 3D map where color represents the dry van specific outbound tender reject index, and the height represents the amount of dry van outbound volume that's coming out of each one of these markets. These markets are broken down by 3-digit zip code. So basically, I can identify which markets are tight, where is capacity tight, and how much volume is coming out of that market, because those are two very important pieces of the puzzle that tells the story of what's happening within that market. For example, this Grand Junction market, we're seeing almost 12% of dry van freight is being rejected coming out of that market. There's very little volume, very flat. Next door, you go over here to Salt Lake City, only 5%, the rejections are half, but the amount of volume is significantly higher, right? And so it gives you an idea of the real-time market conditions, whether it's dry van or refrigerated trailer types, anywhere in the country. We can monitor that here. So from a brokerage perspective, if I'm, trying to cover on brokerage operations, if I'm trying to cover a load that happens to be coming out of Grand Junction, I don't want to have any, I have very little leverage. I need to take the first option that I get, cover that, and move on. But if I'm trying to cover a load that's coming out of Memphis, I have a lot of leverage. I do not want to cherry pick and just take my first option here. I want to shop around, push back on carriers. This is where I find margin. And so, we have different ways. This is a static view of how the country is at this moment. To give you an idea of how volatile it is, if I start stepping back day at a time, you see these colors change pretty significantly.
Yeah.
And so we have different ways of visualizing this information. And again, like this is still kind of speaking to brokerage, and we can get to some international information here in just a moment as well. But this is like a volatility chart. So this is looking at week over week changes in volume, the tender rejections, head haul being the difference in outbound freight versus inbound freight. That's what we see in this map down here. Tender lead time, which is the amount of time between when something's accepted electronically versus when it's picked up. This is a great metric for shipper sentiment. This is understanding where are there imbalances in outbound and inbound freight, truck to load imbalances, if you will. Rejections is showing capacity, and then of course looking at volume. The way we have this set up is when any of these metrics, we're looking at week over week changes. That's the percent on top and the value down below. When this change exceeds one standard deviation, it gets flagged as moderate. Exceeds 2, it gets flagged as strong. So from a brokerage perspective, I can use something like this to locate and identify those markets that are experiencing volatility, either up or down, tightening or loosening. And if we run out of time here, I'll send you another link. That way we can keep going on whatever reason this is timed. But it just allows us to your brokers to know where they have leverage. You want to identify those volatile markets, and that's where you're going to find your margin. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're also keeping tabs on all of the imports coming into the country within Sonar. So I've built out this this page here. where we're looking at maritime import shipments by port. We're looking at, I can change the time period to daily, or I can look at weekly changes, 2 week, monthly changes. But this is broken down to the largest value, moving down to the smallest value. Right now I have all the ports here, but I can filter this to only be select ports. I'm looking at the percent change above and the value down below. So yeah, this is a great way to kind of keep tabs on which ports are expanding, which ones are contracting in different time intervals. You can look at TEU totals, TEU spreads. We have Drury information here as well, the World Container Index. Then we're looking at port-to-port lane monthly shipments, going from port to port on specific lanes across the world. And they're being flagged as far as which direction they're moving according to the color. Green going up, going down. Yeah, and then we can start doing a lot of different analysis, putting a lot of these different data sets on top of one another to kind of get an understanding of what's happening in specific ports across the country. And on the intermodal side, here's a watch list of all of our international volumes, international containers, whether they're inbound or outbound, totals, empties, and loaded. Both for inbound, total, empty, and loaded for outbound. And then here's all of our markets. And again, we can change this, be weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever it may be, and cycle across all the different markets up top. Or I can break it down and look at all those same metrics by 20 foot, 40 foot, and 45 foot, again, across all those different markets here. You can click on any of those, and I'm going to pull up if I click on any box, I'm going to pull up a chart, and I can see historically what that's been doing. If I want to look at 20-foot empty containers coming into Savannah, I can look at those volumes here. And then we also have dwell times, rail dwell times as well, wow. and some rejections here on intermodal moves. So yeah, there's a lot of great information here. We get a lot of customs information as well. And we can start putting together different data sets to see the story of what's happening in a specific area. Like what I was saying about Southern California, when we're seeing, monitoring imports that are coming into LA and Long Beach, and then looking at that combined with outbound rail, like international containers coming in and out of the LA market, and then also looking at truckload volumes coming out of the LA market. We can look at all that data together in one place to understand the story of what's happening. Are imports up or down? Once they get here, what's happening? Are they getting on trucks or are they getting on rails? And then based on that, how much of each? And then, we're able to also look at trends on a national level. For example, we've seen over time this big movement. Got too many pages. Rail chart. Yeah. We've seen this big movement of outbound containers coming to the middle of the country from East Coast or from West Coast and East Coast. What we've seen is, for example, this is outbound rail container volume in blue from Elizabeth, New Jersey to Columbus, Ohio, compared to outbound rail container volumes from Los Angeles to Columbus, Ohio. So you can see back here in 18, there's a lot more rail container volume coming from LAX to Columbus. Tariffs were announced and whatnot, and you have all the infrastructure that's going into the East Coast. And now there's this switch that happens in about a year ago. And now the volume coming into Columbus, the rail volume coming into Columbus from Elizabeth is far more than what it is from LA. LA's kind of gone down a little bit, and the volume coming into Elizabeth has gone up substantially. So again, there's more information. This is more strategic for understanding how freight is being moved, seeing that more and more freight's coming into the East Coast. It just allows you to be more informed with your strategies, be more informed with your sales efforts, be more informed with the decisions you're making on the operations end, And the culmination of all those better and more informed decisions is that you should see more revenue at the end of the year when you're basing a lot of your decisions on really good real-time information. I've been doing a lot of talking, so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what you're seeing so far.
I find it to be amazing. Yeah, it's just absolutely amazing. It's extremely helpful. The fact that real time is just, yeah. I have nothing much more to say. It's just, yeah, I'm amazed by the technology of it. Statistics.
We offer this on a subscription basis.
Okay.
And along with the subscription, you get a dedicated person on our end who's your customer success manager. So, we would give you the number of logins that you need, whether you need 5 people on your team using this or 10 people on your team using this, whatever it may be. We get you set up with the appropriate amount of logins. We do payments either quarterly, semi-annual, or annually. And then you have that customer success representative, customer success manager on our end, and they handle your training and help you understand all the information that's here, as well as understanding the navigation and how to access that. And then they're going to start building out custom pages for you. And then they're going to show you how you can go about building your own page and how you can share pages with other Sonar users. So you might want to build out a number of pages for your sales team, build out different pages for your operations, and so forth. Certain pages for international, certain pages for domestic. That's what our customer success manager is there for. So they handle all of that for you. They're your point of contact moving forward. The end goal is that on our side, our goal is to see you have a tremendous return on your investment. Whatever you're paying for this software, you should see multiples more than that in the additional revenue a year from making more informed decisions.
Obviously. Yeah. Great. Thank you.
All right. Have a great weekend. Great chatting with you.
Yes. Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.
Click the subscribe button for new videos every week and download us and review us on iTunes. Visit www.beslogistics.net for more logistics, transportation, and warehousing resources. Thanks for watching.